At this point, if Trump was trying to lose the Republican Party voters, he wouldn't do anything differently. He took to Truth Social today writing, "The European Union, one of the most hostile and abusive taxing and tariffing authorities in the world, which was formed for the sole purpose of taking advantage of the United States, has just put a nasty 50% tariff on whiskey. If this tariff is not removed immediately, the US will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wines, champagnes, and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries. This will be great for the wine and champagne business in the United States." I just want to be there when America's suburban moms find out that Trump just slapped a 200% tax on their wine. Like, I know this is a pretty unscientific analysis, but I know a non-zero number of women who would be very, very unhappy finding this out. If you think that Americans like coffee in the morning, watch what happens when you take wine away at night. And what I presume is most frustrating is that the wine is really our last lifeline when dealing with the economy that Trump has created right now. How else do you stomach a stock market that has utterly plummeted in the last week as the direct result of Trump's economic policies and trade war? Taking away wine right now is like taking away Advil after St. Paddy's Day. And let's be clear, that pain is being felt across the entire economy.
Well, Wolf, this really all goes back to continued confusion over the president's trade war. This is another example of a day where we got some pretty good economic news. There was a better than expected inflation report that came out this morning, but markets are not focused on that. The focus is on tariffs. As you know, the president had new tariffs on steel and aluminum that kicked in yesterday, and that triggered retaliation from the European Union, threatening to hit U.S. goods with tariffs. And then we heard the president come out this morning and threaten retaliation of his own, saying that he's going to impose massive tariffs on alcohol that comes from Europe. France then responded and said that they're going to fight back as well. So this all just shows how tariffs can lead to kind of an escalatory cycle. It turns into a tit-for-tat battle, and I don't think investors like that. I think that much has been made clear from the last few days where we've seen significant losses in the stock market. You see the Dow is down almost 350 points, about 1%. Steeper losses for the NASDAQ as well, a little bit more than 1%. And that's because we know that investors, they crave stability and clarity, but they're not getting that right now. They're getting a whole lot of chaos and confusion and uncertainty over these tariffs and this trade war. I mean, they want to know how high are tariffs going to ultimately go? What countries are going to face tariffs and on what products, and how long are the tariffs going to stay in place, and what does the retaliation look like? And frankly, Wolf, we don't know the answers to any of those questions. And so that's why we've seen in recent days investors are selling first and asking questions later.
In fact, I asked Congressman Jared Moskowitz about this, and here's what he had to say.
Well, listen, when they find out from their husbands that the stock market is gone down, and then they go to the store, and they're the one who see a lot of grocery prices.
Yeah.
Right. So they see grocery prices, and now they're going to see wine and champagne. I mean, literally, I don't know. I mean, but look, all seriousness, yeah, this is going to hit suburban America is what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, as costs go up and people's nest eggs go down in the stock market, which is not what suburban America said they voted for. They were voting for, Trump to go take us into the golden age. We didn't know that eggs would be the price of gold, but that's what he said is we're going to make the golden age of America. Well, by the way, 90 days in, I don't see much of the golden age. I see the stock market in collapse. I see us in a tariff war with our allies. I see us, cozying up to our enemies. By the way, Russia just declined his ceasefire deal. So much for trying to find peace after cozying up to Russia. Everything he's touching right now is not working.
And surely, given all the pain and turmoil, Donald Trump has seen the error of his ways and recognized the acute financial pain that Americans are contending with, and he's changing course to mitigate the worst impacts of his disastrous economic policy. I'm just kidding. He's literally changing nothing.
Why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything. We don't need their cars. I'd much rather make the cars here. And there's not a thing that we need. Now, there'll be a little disruption, but it won't be very long. But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry. We have to do this, yes.
And that right there is the unique danger posed by someone whose priority isn't what's best for the country, but rather what's best for his fragile ego. Remember, Trump knows full well the pain that Americans are feeling. He literally admits that he won the 2024 election because of the high cost of groceries that Americans couldn't afford to eat. The difference is that now that he doesn't need anybody's votes anymore, he's done pretending that he cares. If he cared, he would prevent prices from rising. He would stop what he's doing that is causing them to rise. But he's not. He's exacerbating these problems. The trade war has already crashed the stock market. One might think that that would be enough of a wake-up call to reverse course, but he refuses to do that, even knowing that the longer this goes on, the more pain that Americans feel. And that's what you get with a president driven by ego. Trump views any reversal as a capitulation, and he won't do that. He graduated from the Roy Cohn School of Management. He will never admit fault, he will never take the blame, and he will never reverse course. It doesn't matter to Trump that your 401ks are plummeting, and that costs are rising, and that your family is getting squeezed. That is not his priority. His priority is protecting his own ego. I want to disabuse you of the notion that Trump's presidency is in any way about you. It's not. It is about him, just as it's always been about him. The reality is that we live in a global economy. We rely on our global trading partners. We need them for pharmaceuticals and cars and auto parts and electronics and food and clothing and on and on. It's one thing to deploy tariffs strategically while we ramp up our domestic industries, but Trump is as delicate as a tornado. He has slapped across-the-board tariffs on literally all of our trading partners across all sectors with no plan to ramp up those domestic productions to offset the disruptions. Not only does that impact supply chains, which is why prices are rising, but the unpredictability of how he's wielding these tariffs is having cataclysmic impacts on the stock market. The one thing the market hates more than anything else is uncertainty, is volatility, unpredictability. Trump is ensuring that that is the only thing he delivers on. Ironically enough, all Trump had to do was nothing. He just needed to come into office and coast off of Biden's strong economy and then take all the credit and go play golf 5 days a week. Honestly, if he did nothing, we'd be fine. But instead, he made the conscious decision to launch a trade war. He made the conscious decision to go after healthcare. He made the conscious decision to jack up prices. These are not unfortunate byproducts of unforeseen global events. These were policy choices by Trump. Making it so that Americans can't even afford to drink wine isn't the first, nor will it be the last way that Donald Trump is making life in America completely unaffordable. Before you go, first, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we're now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they're willing to cater to this White House. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a great way for me to be able to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's completely free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.